Hi again folks, here we are again. This is a Heljan Class 16 locomotive. This was sent to me by a chap called Neil, and he said it ran for a little bit and then it stopped and started smoking and it produced a really bad smell. So that doesn't sound good at all. So this is completely dead apart from the lights. If I turn on the power, you can see the lights come on at the front there. And if I put it into reverse, the red lights come on. That's quite cool. But completely dead, and smoke and bad smells is not doesn't sound good at all. I have not worked on a Heljan locomotive at all before. I've looked at the exploded diagram for this, so I think this is going to be a bit of an adventure. Right, we'll get it into the shed. It's going to have to be a shove in, and we'll see what's what. So this is my first time up close and personal with a Heljan model. It's it's a fair weight. That's it's about the same weight as you'd expect from a Hornby double locomotive, and it's all super detailed and really nice looking. Detail or not, it doesn't run, so that's no good. I've just noticed it's got no couplings, but the pockets are hitting the vacuum pipes. Right, okay, let's get this into the sponge. So I've got two big screws there, and there's screws either end. Now I have looked at the exploded diagram for this thing, but exploded diagram shows you all the parts but doesn't really explain in any detail how to take anything apart. But we'll undo the screws and see what happens. I really don't like the sound of what the problem was. I mean, smoke coming out of an older locomotive, that's usually just the brushes burning on the commutator. Can be the motor blown. This thing will have a PCB, a printed circuit board, so I'm hoping that's not blown. Maybe the motor's blown. Who knows? We'll find out. Right, is this going to lift off? It does at that end. Please lift off at this end. Yes, it does. There we go. Oh well, that's what's blown. The blanking plate. You can see it there. Black mark, and there's some soot underneath on the printed circuit board. You can see there. So that's what's happened. The blanking plate has blown. So I can fit another blanking plate, but the question is, why is it blown? What caused it to blow? So there's the motor in there. Motor's in here, and we've got drive shafts go to both bogies. Right, interesting. So let's remove this blanking plate first. Here you come. So it's a 21 pin blanking plate, and you can see where it's blown there. Now, does this just prise off? Yeah, that comes off like that. It's kind of stuck down. Okay, so I've got 4 screws here that I think, if I undo, will expose the motor. What I want to be able to do is to get to the motor to test it. See if it runs, see if it turns the wheels. Because if everything seems okay, we'll fit a new blanking plate and hope for the best. Right, does that now come out? Yes, it does. So many little delicate wires. That turns okay, that turns okay. Okay, prop this up. This circuit board is kind of just kept on with some kind of sticky stuff, but it just keeps coming off. There's only a couple of wee screws, Heljan. Right, okay, let's remove this again. Can I get into the motor here. Okay, I'll get into the motor here now with some power. Oh dear, nothing. No, the motor's dead. Blimey. But as I said, you know, there had to be a reason for that little blanking plate to blow, so clearly there is a much bigger problem. So how the devil did we get this motor out? Alright, okay, I think the motor just lifts out. Okay, that ain't out. Okay, so I think I'll pull this little plug to release the, like that. Terrified of breaking one of these little wires. There we go. Right, and there's a drive shaft in there that I'll need to remember. So there's the motor and its flywheels. So the flywheels have little sockets for the drive shafts. But we're going to have to try and get a replacement. Okay, so I've had a hunt around online, and Gagemaster are the stockists of Heljan spare parts. Unfortunately, they don't have this. This is part number 68 of this locomotive, and it's listed as the motor with flywheels. Gagemaster don't have it. I can get a replacement motor, but it will mean pulling those flywheels off and then refitting them to the new motor. So I've ordered a puller that I think will get these flywheels off. And if I can, we'll get a new motor and we'll get a new blanking plate and we'll see if we can get this thing going. So a few days later, here's my little puller. So the reason I bought this particular one was because one of the pin tools that it comes with will fit down in there to push out the shaft of the armature from the flywheel, and it won't damage the plastic socket for the drive shaft. However, I didn't anticipate this problem. The flywheel does not fit inside the tool. So how this would have worked, put the pin in there, and you'd put that plate across. So slid the flywheel in on top of the plate and turned that down using that, and that would pull off the flywheel. But that's not going to work because the flywheel will not fit inside the tool. However, I think this might be useful because I think I'll just have to resort to plan B, which is to knock it out. I've cut the shaft off a little drill bit, which is the same diameter as the armature shaft, and what we'll do is pop that in there, slide that in there, pop it in a vise, and carefully tap it out. Carefully just place that on the end of the armature shaft and then give it a few taps. There we go. And we'll do the same with the other one. Yeah. Okay, so that's my flywheels off the motor, which can get binned. And I have a replacement motor. So we'll see if we can get the flywheels on. It should be easier to get them on, in theory. Right, okay, we need to get these in place. Thankfully they kind of just pop on. So what we need to do is to squeeze those flywheels together until they're in the correct position. They need to be about 4.2 millimeters away from the motor at either end. I don't have a special tool to do this, so I've got to hunt around all my various clamps and vices and things, and I'm going to use this. It's my dad was a joiner, so this is one of the tools I've got lying around in the shed, and I thought this is actually ideal because I can lay this flat. I think this is originally meant for, is it a mitre joiner, I think, or something, a mitre clamp. But I can lay this in because the one thing you don't want to do is put this in a vise just like that and squeeze it together. You're at risk of bending the armature shaft. So it needs to be kept absolutely flat. And because with this, I can lay it flat on that clamp and then start to squeeze it together. And hopefully this will work. Okay, none of that was very pretty, but the flywheels are on. Okay, we shall refit these rubber rings. Actually, what I should do before I do anything else is test that the motor actually works. Let's mount it. Bit of black tack. Stick it on there. Right. Does this motor spin? Is it better? Yes. Okay, so we'll need to solder these tiny little wires back on. That one. It's just one of those days with the solder's going everywhere except where I want it to. I think we're in. Okay, so with the connector soldered to the motor, we can start to think about putting this back together and see if it runs. I think we'll get some molly grease into these sockets, like so. Put some grease on these as well. Right, okay, let's put the motor back in, which could be easier said than done. Right, let's do this way around. Struggling to see what I'm doing here with the light. Right, okay, so we need to get that up. Get these O-rings in the right position. Right. That's it. Okay, so motor in position. We'll feed this connector up through here. Like that, and then that should fit down and hold the motor in place. So when I looked online for a replacement for this blanking plate, I couldn't see any Heljan ones specifically. They're just sort of generic 21 pin blanking plates, which probably would have been fine. But I did see that you could get an entire replacement printed circuit board with a blanking plate attached for Heljan, and because the old PCB is quite badly scorched, I thought, you know, that's probably a better idea. Just get a replacement for both, because it would just light the thing to put a new blanking plate on, and it still doesn't work because I need to replace this as well. So, off camera, I have fitted a replacement circuit board and blanking plate. So all I have to do, I've already connected up those two, so I've just got to connect up on this side, and we should be good to go, hopefully. So I'll get tweezers, because these little plugs can be really fiddly. These little plugs come out quite easily and go in very easily. Just be careful with them, but you don't really need any little special tools if you're careful. So that one in. That's that one in. And then we'll connect up the motor. There we are, right. So there we go. We've replaced the motor and we've replaced the circuit board and the blanking plate. Will it go? It better. Let's get a test track. Okay, let's turn on the power, and away it goes. And the other direction. Excellent result. Okay, we'll get the body back on. Okay, So this should just slide on nicely. Like so. Turn it over and we'll screw it down. It's quite awkward to get into these body fixing screws because the bogies are kind of in the way, but I've looked at this thing and looked at the exploded diagram and I cannot see for the life of me how you get these bogies out. So fortunately I haven't had to do that. A little bit of lubrication on the axles. Right, okay, we're all done. Let's go and stick it on the layout and see how it goes. Okay then, let's bring her out. So there we are, that's his Heljan Class 16 running again. That was a bit of a new adventure, unfamiliar territory. Very interesting to work on, but quite fiddly. If this is typical of other Heljan models, I think it's really nice. It's super detailed and good quality, but personally, I don't think it would like being taken apart too often. I don't think. I get the feeling these body fixing screws would start to strip, and I have no idea how the rest of the model actually comes apart. It's not clear from the exploded diagram. I'm sure it does, but yeah, it's not something I think it'd be interesting to try and do it, but on one of my own, I think, rather than someone else's. Getting replacements for these is a bit of a luck of the draw of what you can get on eBay and what Gagemaster has. But thankfully I was able to get hold of a replacement motor from Peter Spares along with a replacement PCB and blanking plate. It runs really smooth and quiet, but it's not the fastest locomotive in the world, but I don't think it's meant to be. So that's fine, it runs at quite a scale speed, I suppose. My main concern with this model is I think the motor's underpowered. The model is really heavy. For the weight of that model and the fact it's driving two bogies, there's a lot of load on that wee motor, which it's probably why the motor burnt out in the first place. And from what I've read online, it seems to be quite a common occurrence. So my recommendation for this would be to run it slowly, not for too long, and don't give it big demanding loads to pull. Keep your eye on the current draw. But anyway, it's a lovely thing and it was fun to work on something different, and really pleased to get it going again. It's apparently been sat in a box for 6 years. So we'll get this packaged up and sent back to Neil, and we'll catch you later, folks. What's next?